I picked the right scene. It's a miracle. Things are working. I can see my voice. I can see your voice. We're good. We're good. How are you
Yep.
doing this fine? Is it still Saturday there?
It is for at least one more hour.
Great.
How about you? How is your day going?
Well, as of some time early this morning, it got a lot better than it was previously. Uh,
Ah,
Election results came in, and I was happy with the results. Uh,
ah,
Glad my hometown pulled through for us, because if not, that would be sad.
yeah. I've seen a lot of stuff being shared on Twitter. Everyone being happy. So I'm like, this is the result that everyone wanted. So I'm happy.
I feel like this all kind of relates to where we are in the Star Trek universe right now too. Oddly enough,
Yeah.
um, Federation is broken, and now Discovery is there and trying to put the pieces back together,
Uh,
and that's kind of what's going on in this country too. But I know you guys are dealing with like your own shit over there with like Boris Johnson and Brexit and all that kind of stuff.
oh yes, 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 we are. We're pretty much in the. I would say we're stuck in the Delta Quadrant where no one's around, and we try to send out for help, and it's just like the Ferengi are taking over, and that's it. That, to be fair, that's the best thing I could say is like our parliament is a little bit like the Ferengi at the moment. No one likes them. They all love money, and they when they make one set of rules, they decide to whip it round and change it to their advantage.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. That's pretty much how it is here. It's with. I mean, I don't really want to get super political, but with the Republicans, it's like they have these set of rules that they're like, no, this is how things need to be done. And then once those aren't working to their advantage, they're like, you know what, we've changed our mind. We're gonna do things this way instead, and if you don't like it, you can fuck off. And it's
Yep.
it's yeah. So it feels very similar. It's bizarre because like for me, I know I've talked about this I think with you before and definitely with Joe on the retro show with Enterprise is that there's a lot from Star Trek that feels very relevant to where we are right now, even though a lot of these series were from years and years ago.
Mm,
And I know as an American, I know how it relates here, but hearing that it kind of relates over there as well is kind of interesting because it's interesting to me how different people perceive different things as it relates to their circumstances and their lived reality.
mm. Yeah, it is like from when I was a kid, I just enjoyed the stories, but I always wanted that Star Trek world, the thing to better mankind, and it wasn't all about monetary like gain and stuff like that. But over time, like when I've seen it more, like I think maybe this is the reason why I can relate to DS9 a lot more because you see that side now as you're older. So like you see like Next Generation, the adventure, like exploration, and that's what you see as a kid. But then when, like, say, DS9 comes along, or even Discovery, they show you a different side to how things are, and then you kind of can go back and go, "Oh yeah, I remember that. That I can relate to this moment in time." Um, so, like, our political stance over here is just literally they want money, and then they'd rather feed us than other people, and that's when it gets really kind of a bit. Meh. Um, I kind of think we're living in a DS9 type world at the moment.
Yeah, yeah, I can definitely agree with that. Yeah, kind of segueing that into this episode, I felt like I related more with because there were kind of with the last three episodes there was really only one plot per episode. Like, sure,
Mm,
there are a couple of like minor things. Like in the previous episode, in addition to Burnham rejoining the crew, and that kind of storyline there about like where she was at mentally. There was also the main storyline about them going up against the Raiders that were attacking Earth. But the episode before that, it was mostly just about the main storyline. This episode, we almost had three distinct storylines that were playing out at the same time. We had Burnham and Adira down on Trill and what was happening with them on Trill. Even though I guess you could even break that into two storylines too, because there is a storyline about what was happening with Adira, and then the storyline about what was going on with Trill itself. But then we had the storyline with the crew on the ship that were and Saru trying to figure out how to unify them all again, because they really did just suffer. Even though they didn't suffer like a really traumatic event, it's still something that they have to get used to now, as being 930 years in the future, not knowing how anything out there is compared to what they're used to in their old lives. And then we picked up with the spear again, sort of. And like each one of those kind of like raises its own questions about where the series is going now.
I think like from this, because I only kind of picked up two stories from it. Was the one with the Trills, and obviously with everything that's going on the actual ship itself. And there was one part that did confuse me, which we'll probably get into later, but it was the main, like the whole thing like with Trill. It was interesting to see the kind of divide where they were like, oh, we don't want like, oh, humans infected this, like we're not pure anymore, blah blah blah. And then like from my understanding through the way of DS9, when they like only Trills can merge with symbiote and that's it. Now it's like, oh, actually a human can do this, but if the Trill itself like thinks that you are worthy type thing. And I was like, okay, maybe we don't know what's happened.
That's definitely a retcon, sort of, because in TNG there was the episode where Riker got implanted with the symbiont, because like I don't remember the exact storyline, but if I remember correctly, it was that the Trill was injured or something, and they had to move it into someone, and Riker volunteered to be the temporary host for it. I need to rewatch. I should have rewatched that episode so that I had it in my head, because I don't really remember the whole storyline from that, so I don't know what I don't remember exactly why he was implanted with it or what happened after he was joined. So I don't know if he had the memories or if he was just there as a almost like a surrogate mother for it until they had another Trill to implant it to. So I'll have to go back. I'll have to revisit that this week to see how that actually ties in. But no, yeah. There was definitely some deeper information about the Trills in this one, because the last time we really got a lot of information about the Trill was the last time we saw the Trill homeworld in Deep Space Nine, when Jadzia visited to I don't remember what it was that she had visited for, like what the specific reason was that she had visited.
I'm guessing it probably would have been some medical thing.
Well, was
like
was it the repressed memory from the serial killer host, or
maybe I kind of remember something like that. I always think that if they ever go back to the home world, it's always like, oh, the symbiote's dying inside me, something's going wrong, and it's therefore they then venture back, and then for 45 minutes, Cisco's like turning around and having a speech. Bashir's constantly by Dax's side, going, "Oh, just please date me, Dax, please."
Yeah.
Odo just somewhere in the back.
Speaking about Dax, did you think that the Senatol was actually going to be the Dax? Because there was that line at the beginning where Adira said that she can cook Hasperat, which we know is a Bajoran meal. So that was one of the things that Dax kind of knew, because Curzon Dax apparently was really into Hasperat for some reason. So I found that line a little interesting.
Yeah, when she said Bajoran, I did think back to like Deep Space Nine, and I generally thought at some point as like a kind of moment that you would have seen like Ezra, or even if they got the actress who played Dax, if they got her in, and she was just standing there in the Starfleet uniform, and then they did some sort of magic to make them look exactly like on the show. I would have gone.
Yeah, I was half expecting that to happen, because just because of that moment, I was like, wait a second, did Dax change his name for some reason, or whatever? Like thinking that maybe maybe somewhere along the line, it one of the Dax hosts had run into trouble, and they changed their name so that going forward they could be
Mm.
disassociated from that for some reason. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
I think that would have been interesting. Like, I know obviously you're not meant, like, in these sorts of shows, it's not always meant to be throwback. Like when you start like like a series, you kind of had it in TNG and DS9. You had it a lot for most of the season in Voyager, where they would reference like the last part. So if you watch DS9, they turn around and say the Enterprise, the Enterprise, the Enterprise, and you can literally make a drinking game out of it. And then in Voyager, they say the same sort of thing. They reference like Data's cat and stuff like that. But I was thinking that maybe Discovery would start like talking about the past of the rest of Star Trek. So having Dax there would have been like a subtle nod, or even if like you didn't see the face but you saw the blue uniform, that to me would have gone, oh my god, that's a great link in straight to it,
Right.
and make it even better to kind of stand out.
I mean, just looking here at the episode from Deep Space Nine, it was called Equilibrium, and you were right. It was a medical thing. Uh, her isoboramine levels were dropping, and it seemed like she might be rejecting the symbiont. So they took Jadzia to the Trill homeworld to see if any of this to see
Mm.
what they could figure out. But I'll rewatch that one this week. I'll rewatch both the DS9 episode with the Trill homeworld and the TNG episode with the Trill.
Mm.
And we can kind of talk about that next week. But let's get into like this actual episode here. Which storyline did you feel like you kind of related to more? Well, we'll talk about that one first.
I don't know. Like, I'm gonna go with, is it Saru? And when he wants to get the crew all together, and they all just start fighting, and I could see what he was going for and what he wanted to do, but then it was just everyone was so highly strung that it didn't go right. And I was just like, I can relate to that. I've been in multiple chats and stuff like that when someone's highly strung and like stuff goes off in one go. Like I can't the girl, I can't remember her name, but the kind of, it looks like she's part cyborg, where she's the one who like kind of,
Detmer.
Depper. I think it's, yeah, she's the
Yeah,
one who started all the
Detmer. Yeah.
argument. It's like, what, like, you know something's up, but they're not telling you. And I'm just kind of like, is this a thing from season 1 or 2? Is it a thing from like Control still about, or is it something different for her? So it's kind of giving a mystery that I kind of like.
Yeah. Before we go on, I just want to address the chat. Donnie Pearson is here. He's one of our biggest Star Trek fans that we have, and Jared Hodges has joined us. So thank both of you for joining us here. We appreciate you coming in. Uh, Now, the thing with Detmer, like we first noticed that I think in the season premiere of season 3, after they had crash landed, and she was injured, and she was refusing to admit that really anything was wrong, but you could tell that something was definitely wrong. Like she was having, it was almost like a post traumatic stress
Mm,
type thing that she was having. And we kind of saw that a little bit last week when she was having trouble accepting the orders to put the Discovery in between uh, the blasters coming from the Raiders and
mm,
coming from Earth and the ship that had the dilithium because she was having, I can't say a mental break, but she was definitely having emotional
mm,
issues with dealing with being put into danger again. So yeah, that's definitely a thing that I like that it's coming back because I enjoy getting more character development from her because I feel like she was one of the characters that we knew her and we'd seen her in the last 2 seasons, but we really hadn't gotten to
mm,
know her as a person just yet. So
mm.
seeing them giving more time to some of these characters is nice. But yeah, no, I also agree with being um, familiar with that experience because I feel like that's something that like everyone can relate to is either being at a family dinner where someone just says something and just like sends everyone off, or I just running running a business with people that you're friends with. Sometimes things can get a little
Mm.
heated for like when you're trying to make decisions, you're trying to figure things out, and then it just kind of keeps coming back. Um, so yeah, that was really interesting, but it kind of showed like that dinner shined a light on the issues that a lot of these different characters are having. Like Saru still trying to kind of come to figure out how he's going to be a captain and what he needs to do and how to be a good captain. Like
Mm.
I find it interesting that he's consulting the ship.
Yeah, that.
I understand that there's not really anyone else for him to talk to about it, but that he's kind of using the ship as a counselor.
Mm.
Excuse me, is kind of interesting to me. Um, but that did bring about the other like deep plot there that now we're getting about control. Because now we're getting. Did you watch the short treks?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so I'm gonna spoil one of them for you.
Oh, it's fine. Don't worry.
There was one of them called Calypso that took place 1,000 years in the future ahead of Discovery before it had made the jump. Uh, in in that in that world or in that time period, the Discovery ship had a sentient AI, and that is what we saw start to become apparent in this episode here.
Mm.
I do want to address the chat here for a second. Donnie Pearson says that Ian Alexander did a great job at portraying Gray. Likewise, Blue Del Barrio is Adira. Some people have compared Adira with Wesley Crusher. I sort of agree with that. I don't find her as annoying as I found Wesley in the early seasons when he was a kid.
Mm.
So that's a little bit better. Then Mr. Pete Channel is here. Um, is asking about the guy who played Gray. He's okay. So he's not issuing judgment. He just wants to know how the person who plays Gray identifies. And I believe he's non-binary, but
Mm.
does accept being called he. I looked him up on Twitter because I saw him retweet something, or I saw one of the Star Trek, the official Star Trek Twitter feeds had tagged him in something. So I was like, oh, that's the guy who played this kid. So and the pronouns that he has in his Twitter feed are they/he. So
Okay.
I'm honestly not familiar enough with the the non-binary position to say whether that's like common for it to be they/he, because he apparently does identify as a he, but also as not. So I honestly don't
Yeah.
know. But that's what it seems that's what it seems like. But he's speaking about that character. He's someone that I wanted to bring up. Like I know we're not gonna get to him until a little bit later, but what did you think of that character? Because I definitely have feelings. I
Uh, as bad
I
as it
don't know whether
sounds,
they're good or bad yet.
as bad as it sounds, which one's Gray? Because
Gray was the boyfriend, Adira's boyfriend, that the
oh,
host that she took the symbiont from.
okay, yeah. When obviously with stuff that I've seen with Trills in the past and stuff like that, when you look at like past memories, I've never seen a person out there like it's they as a like you're projecting the character. So obviously they talk about it in their minds and stuff like that. I don't know if this is going to be like either a red herring, and the character is actually evil, and it's going to kind of corrupt, or if it was a loving like thing of she could have a conversation. The character, I don't too much moment because you've only been kind of introduced to Gray. So to me, I'm more like, oh, that's really nice. It was a cute story, nice that I generally really liked. It was wholesome. But now I see that Gray's there, I'm like, oh, could this be someone evil? Could it be an alien manipulating? We've seen it in the past with the past Star Trek episodes, where you'll have like that girl in Next Generation. It's an alien life form, and this little girl is in the Arboretum on the Enterprise, and this ball of light comes along and it
Oh
takes on
yeah,
the
yeah,
imagination. And then it's more like, yeah, go shoot the warp core. She's like, I don't want to do the warp core. I want to pick flowers. She's like, kill the people on the ship. And you're like,
yeah, yeah.
okay. So I don't know if they're kind of doing a storyline very similar to that, or if this was a one-off where she's like, oh, it's great because it's closure for the character. You
Right.
know,
Well,
she's.
I think he, I, I think he might be I don't know if he's a regular, but I think he's going to be a returning character.
Mm,
I'll have to look for look to see that. I think my thing with him was I just can't decide whether I like the character or not.
mm,
It just I don't know if it's the way he's portraying the character or the character itself, but I didn't feel a connection between him and Adira.
mm.
Like it just felt I don't know how to explain uh like what my thoughts are on it. It's just something felt off, and I don't know what
Mm.
it was. Um, I think the story itself. I was like, okay, this is it's an interesting story. You know, she was dating this Trill kid. The accident that the ship had wounded him, mortally wounded him, but and the only way that she was able to save him was by, or not save him, but save his memories and everything was by taking the symbiote. Like I think that was a great story. I'm just not so sure how I feel about the I guess maybe the actor. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see if he grows on me over the course of the next few episodes that he's in. I'm not I don't want to say one way or the other yet, just because I don't know. Um,
Mm.
but I thought it was a overall that whole storyline I thought was fairly interesting. Just seeing how the Trill was connecting with Adira.
Yeah.
Um,
I think.
okay.
See, with Adira, like I kind of really want to see a change in her. So like you saw it in like personality wise, but I kind of want to see like in feature wise. So like say for example, if like an anime character goes through a change, like their hair will do something, or they'll gain like spots. Like I kind of really wanted to have her with spots coming out, or that her hair was slightly different because I literally turned around and went, I really like her hair when she's come out of the water, and it felt like that was more of a confidence thing. And I was like, I would love it if that was the style of hair to show that she's gone through this change, like she's accepted the memories, and it's kind of gone, boom, you're now this other person because her personality's kind of changed a bit.
Yeah.
But I wanted to see that kind of reflected on the outside at the same time.
Yeah. I think there was the episode of Deep Space Nine again with Jadzia where I don't remember the name of the character, but the actor John Glover was another Trill who felt he was cheated out of getting the Dax symbiote. So
Mm,
he kidnapped her and forced Bashir to transplant the Dax symbiote from her into him. And like obviously he was Trill, so there wasn't really any physical changes that would be made. But I thought John Glover did a really good job of personality wise, like just with his mannerisms and how he was speaking, just in general, changing almost like Christopher Reeve going from Clark
mm,
Kent to Superman. There's a difference between John Glover as just just the Trill John Glover, and then the joined Trill had a distinct personality and way of just being. Like the presence that he had was a lot different than it had been
mm.
before he was joined. And I think that's what you're talking about too with Adira is that her presence kind of felt the same, like she was speaking in a little bit different tone, but she still kind of felt like the same person.
Yeah, there's no kind of reasonable change. Yeah, because like as I said, like I remember that episode where you'd be like rah rah rah, and then you'd be like, oh, now I'm talking like this. I've got a different personality. Like I've got different mannerisms. The way I speak is completely different, and that's what I kind of want to see. Like if the next episode it's like boom, like all of these have like come through, then I think that would have been fine. Or maybe like if she emerged from the water and half her side had spots and the rest didn't, I think that would be like a, oh, we know that she's changed. Because if someone comes along like goes, oh, I missed last week's, but blah blah blah, I'm gonna watch this one, and it's like, oh, but she's exactly the same. And I think
Right.
if you show a tiny bit of change, like I'd say like Super Saiyan 3 in Dragon Ball, when Goku turns that, he's like la la la, but then he's like, I'm serious now, and you go, that's a subtle change, bar the long hair, but you see a change in tone, and that's what I wanted to see with Adira to have.
And with the symbiote, I guess that would be possible because there it is physically inside of her. So if it adjusts her body chemistry somewhat, then yeah, there's definitely some sort of a physical change that could happen. I think I figured out what it is that was bothering me about Gray. He was just smiling all the time. Like he always seemed like he was happy. And to me, like nothing against people that are happy all the time, but sometimes it comes across a little creepy to me. Like,
Yeah.
Because like you know those people that are just like always happy, always bubbly. They always have. They like. It almost seems like you were saying before. Like there could be something else going on there. Like maybe he's not necessarily evil, but going to be influencing her to do certain things in some way. That's what I feel about people who are always happy and always smiling. I feel like there's something just like underneath the surface there that's just like not right. And I think that's what it is with him too, but I'm not sure. I don't know. Again, I don't know if that's just the character or if that's supposed to be there or if that's the actor. Maybe the actor is like just one of those guys who's just like always smiling and always happy, so that came across in the character. I don't know.
Is that why we don't like Neelix? Because he's constantly smiling.
Maybe. So, what do you know about this device that the caretaker put into the water that was supposed to help with with her accessing the Trill with the symbiote? Because like it cracked there towards the end, and I'm not sure why that happened.
I don't know, because the way that they said it was like either to help with the memories, help stimulate or stimulate, and then like record the memories or something like that. Like they said it quite quickly all the way through. So when I was kind of watching it, it cracked, and I was like, oh, maybe it's an overload because there's too many memories. It's not being used for such a long time because they say, oh, well, no one's come back to Trill in X amount of years, or hundreds of years or whatever. And then all of a sudden, it's like, well, if we've not used this, then maybe it's too much for it to take. That's the kind of thing that I got off it, or maybe it was rushed and they didn't calibrate it correctly. I don't know. Maybe that's the kind of thing I got from it. Maybe it's a thing that we could see later on where they go like, oh, actually, that broke, so therefore it released the evil toxins, and now that person's evil. But it takes time for them to become evil.
Sorry, really quick. Joe actually just sent me a text. He said that my audio is kind of weird. Are you able to hear me? Okay. For those of you.
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
That's weird. I'm gonna switch to my actual mic here. Hopefully that doesn't break anything. Speakers right, microphones right. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can still hear you.
Okay, great. So I'm gonna go over there. Hopefully that will be a little bit better. Let me turn that up. It looks like it's not actually changing on its own this week, so that's good. Yeah, I can see that my volume is definitely a lot louder here. So hopefully that's better. Joe, if you're still watching, let me know. I can see your text popping up on the screen. Yeah. So sorry. I completely lost where we were with that. You were talking about that device being a thing.
Yeah. So when I saw it, they either turned around and said it's either to stimulate to get the memories out, record the memories. I'm sure they turned around and said this helps record memories or something, and I was just like, oh, okay, that's fine. And then obviously when it was in the water, it was too old, and that's the reason why it cracked, or the fact that it was overwhelmed of energy or something like that. I really wish they explained it, at the end, like, after they've done the whole thing of like, oh, you're now one of us, congratulations, that they actually go, oh, this broke, and this is the reason why.
Yeah, there was that, and then like, where did they disappear to, and how did they disappear into the water?
Why didn't they drown? Like, literally, that was a whole
Right.
10 minutes.
Yeah, so like that's another thing that I don't understand is like how did they get pulled down into the pool? Like was there another like cave? Like was it like in the Power Rangers movie where like they fell through the water into another cave underneath it that had an atmosphere in it that they were able to breathe and had allowed them to commune directly with the Trill that was inside. Like I don't it was it's not like an issue that's ruining the episode for me. It's just one of those things like with Power Rangers where I'm like, okay, how did this happen? Like what's the actual science behind this?
Yeah,
Because
they don't.
that's what Star Trek is. Like it's the science. So like I was a little disappointed that never got like that Burnham didn't pop out and go, okay, where did we go? Or like when she disappeared, like where did she go? Like how am I going to follow her? Like I don't exactly follow where like what was the concept there.
Yeah, I just imagined that they got pulled to the bottom and they were on the bottom of that thing. So they didn't go into a different one. And it's more kind of like they had like, like some sort of spiritual awakening type thing.
Right. Because
Um,
also, I mean, I guess for all we know, the water might not be water. Like maybe it's like some sort of a chemical compound that is oxygen rich enough that they could actually breathe it.
well, the guy at the beginning, when obviously Amira goes in, and then all of a sudden, like he goes to Michael, you can't stay down there for too long. You will drown, or type thing, or you can't stay down there for long. Which then gave me the impression it's like, oh, all right, well, it means you're gonna drown. What's this about? And then,
Yeah.
but it did feel like when they were down there that it was over really quickly. Like it was more like boom, oh, like these things are coming towards me. Well, there's a reason. Don't start kicking them away. And it's like, right, we've got the memories and we're out. And that was it. Like it was too quick.
Right. Well, I guess that's the other thing is we don't know because obviously when you're dreaming, like you could have a dream and it seems like 2 or 3 or 4 months go by, but it was really only a couple of hours that
Mm.
that you were asleep, or you could take like a power nap for like 20 minutes, but you had a dream and it was like a whole day that you were inside of that dream. So that doesn't bother me so much because who knows how much time actually passed while they were in that state.
Mm.
But it just not knowing how much time actually passed in that state, I think is one of the things where I was just like, okay, I do need a little bit more information about this. Not from a nitpicky point of view, but just from a how does this work point of view.
Yeah. I think that if it's one of those things that as soon as you come out from it, you go, oh God, how long were we down there for? And someone would be like, oh, you're down there for like 10 seconds. And you're like, oh God, it felt like 10 hours. And, it's that sort of like throwaway line that you kind of get for it.
Yeah. Sorry.
Um,
Just making sure from Joe's side because no one in the chat has said anything, so I just want to make sure my audio is good and that it's not something else that's like broken on like the OBS side because that wouldn't surprise me either. But yeah, so like for this storyline as a whole, how did you feel about this part of the episode?
for the Trill side, I found it very kind of like I didn't like the fact that they turned around and were like, "Get off our planet! Like, just get rid of it." And then they're like, "Now we've got to get rid of you, and we're going to kill you, and we're going to do this." I didn't kind of like that because it felt to me like the Trills are very peaceful, and even if it was like they say like, "Oh, you're an abomination because of this," I would rather them turn around and say, "We're going to help you." But then kind of get to that realization because it felt like the whole hostility that one guy had. He's like, "I'm going to kill you," and then he's like, "Oh my God, we should have believed you." I was like, "That I know, obviously you can see it, but it just felt very kind of fake. It didn't feel like a progression. Like if he was like, I'm not sure about this. This sacred water, our sacred temples. I'm not happy about this." I would have seen that more of a standoffish, like rather than shaking his fist out, going, "Get off my lawn, kids! Get off my lawn!"
Right. Well, it seems like this guy. I don't know if you can see the same person. I'm like the dude in the red robes. Like he was all about this happening. Like he was like,
Mm,
no, this is the way forward. Our population is declining because of what's happened. We need to find another way to survive. If that means bringing in humans, then let's. It's obviously working with her. So let's see what's
mm.
happening. And then like with them being attacked, I don't think that was at the behest of the woman that was in charge. I don't remember what her name was exactly at the moment. I'm gonna see if I could find
Mm.
that here. But was it Guardian Chi? No, I don't think it was Guardian Chi. There was Voss, Guardian Shi, and Leader Pav. So it was
Leader
what.
Pod, I think it was.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, it was Leader Pav. She was just like, no, you guys have to go. But she wasn't like openly hostile towards them like the other guy was.
Mm.
Which I think that might have been Guardian Chi. Uh, but I don't know because his name is not clickable here. Uh,
Oh,
so I don't know.
with the leader, she was very interesting because like at the very beginning, she's like, "Oh yeah, you're not Trill," and I literally thought she was gonna be the okay, we'll see how this goes, but then suddenly she just like does a 180. She's like, "Yeah, welcome on, get off my planet," and you're like, "Oh God, why?"
Yeah,
But it felt like it was a massive like drop. It just wasn't a like it was a 180 basically to me where I was like, oh, she's accepting. She's like, everyone is welcome. Like we're gonna open up to you. And then later on, she was like, get off, get away. You know, you can go back to Discovery. And I just felt, oh, okay. But I think as soon as you saw that other guy go, like, no, we got to bring this person in. I instantly knew it was like, right, we know where this story's going to go. She's going to get in the caves anyway. He's going to help her, and that's it. But again, that kind of felt like a little bit of old, like kind of Star Trek way in a bit.
right. Yeah, overall, the Trill storyline, I was a little ambivalent with. I was more interested in the plot with what was going on the ship. I was definitely a
Mm,
lot more involved there. I did like at the end of the storyline on Trill that the leader was like, "Listen, maybe when the Federation comes back, we can have another discussion about another kind of joining." I was like, I see what you
mm.
did there, but that I felt like that ties more into one of the overall themes that this season is going to have of Discovery traveling around the galaxy or the quadrant or whatever and kind of rebuilding the Federation. But
Mm.
uh, that I feel like I'm more interested in next week when they actually find the Federation and and,
Oh, do
and,
they?
and what's going on.
See, I couldn't actually find any previews. So like Netflix on here doesn't actually give us previews.
Oh man. Okay, so in the preview for next week, they find because at the end of this episode, Adira gave them the coordinates for where the Federation was hiding, and
Mm.
you see her. I can't remember who it was that she was talking to right off the top of my head. The actor is someone that I recognize though. Oh, it was Oded Fair, who was in the Mummy movies. He was the
Oh,
the Arabian guy,
mm.
and Deuce Bigelow, male gigolo. Uh, but he's I guess like an admiral or another captain, and he's like, you guys have made the first step, but you haven't actually. But we can't trust you yet, so you have to. It was basically like you have to earn our trust to actually rejoin the Federation because he doesn't know who they are, where they came from. So I kind of get that, but so I want to know what's going on with that now.
Mm.
So there's that I'm looking forward to, but also again going back to the storyline on the ship, I'm really interested in the interpersonal storylines. Like now Detmer has recognized that she is not okay,
Mm.
and she's willing to talk to Culber about it. So like I want to see like her like grow and like learn more about her as a character and see what's going to happen with her. I want to know more about what's happening with the computer and the AI on the ship from the sphere data, and how that's
Mm.
going to become more integrated now. Um, there was just so much more that was happening there that I felt like I was interested in than what was happening down on the surface of the planet.
Yeah. See, I like the like with the AI, it kept changing its voice. So the computer, he was like, "Tell me this," and it'd be like suddenly just different voices. And I was like, "Is that something to? Is that a malfunction with the computer? Is that something completely different?" But then when you just said the AI, I'm like, "Okay, now that makes sense because I remember the AI, and I'm like, oh, but
Yeah, I think sometime this week. It's only like 10 or 15 minutes, but watch the short trek Calypso, and
mm,
that should help fill in like the gaps with what was going on there. I would actually recommend watching all the short treks. That like all of them are between like 10 and 15 minutes long. None of them are great.
mm,
The one with uh, uh, Harry Mudd is a
yeah,
lot of fun. That one's a lot of fun. There's one that ties into Picard that came out right before Picard
okay, yeah,
premiered. So like I think they're worthwhile. Um, yeah, it's just what other characters did we really see from in this episode? We Stamets, he like we saw him kind of humble himself a little bit
mm,
because like at the dinner scene when Detmar was going off on him, he was getting kind of indignant with being like, no, well, I'm the guy that makes this work. I have like I deserve to have this ego because of what I'm capable of doing.
mm,
And then he realized, okay, this isn't all me anymore. Like this isn't about me. And
yeah.
I think that'll help soften him up. And I'm interested to see how his new outlook after this kind of changes his relationship with Reno. So we
Mm.
didn't really see her in this episode at all either.
No, I don't really see them much. Like I kind of like the fact that he acknowledged a lot of stuff, and like when like they're talking, like him and Tilly are talking in the spore drive and stuff like that. She's like, "Yeah, yeah, I know this. You dark matter, and let's work this out." And he's just like, "No, get away." That reminded me very much of season one. I generally kind of thought, "Great, are we going to have this sort of ego all the way through?" But I love the fact that he comes back later on and goes, "Actually, Tilly, your work on this, you're very smart. You're the sort of character that I want to work with. Let's talk about dark matter." And I was just like, yes, that's what I want to see. I don't want to see like how to say dickhead guy. I want to see I'm a bit of a bit of a uptight guy, but I want to see I want to help, but you have to listen to me at the same time. And I generally kind of really like that.
Yeah. I think for me, part of that too was like when he said something. He said something like, um, it was something about her being a really important part of that he couldn't have done everything that he's done without her. And she was like, "Yeah, I know." And I was like, that's a great response," because then he was like, "Well, I haven't said it to you."
Mm,
Like she was angling to get that out of him, and I liked how that just again it's their relationship. I'm excited to see how their relationship grows over time because I kind of feel like going back to like TNG or even Deep Space Nine, like in TNG, um, Geordi was like the lead engineer. Like for the first couple of seasons, there was someone else, but then he started like really taking on all that responsibility, and eventually he got
mm,
promoted, and he was the head of engineering on the ship. O'Brien was just the transporter guy, but then Deep Space Nine, you were like, wait, shit, this guy knows a lot more than what he was doing on the Enterprise. Why wasn't he involved in doing anything else with the tech on the ship? So like I like seeing that kind of thing because like I know that she wanted to go through like command training, but I'm excited to see her go like become like a scientist in her own right too, and
mm.
actually like make contributions to the technology that's on the ship.
Yeah, I think that's her character growth because I think in the first season you don't like from what I remember of it, she wasn't like she was just that part of like, oh, I'm just a roommate. I'm the silly person. Oh, look at me. But now it's like I'm stepping up. I'm actually this important person. And I kind of like seeing that. It's like the kind of the underdog like jumps in and it's just like actually you're an important part of this thing. You're not just like the Barkley of like one or two episodes. You are, in your right, the one of the better characters. And I think that's for character growth, at least in Star Trek. I think that they do it quite right, and it's not just forced like, oh, one week Tilly's like la 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 la, and then next week she's just like, right, I'm about to drop some warp core science on you boys. Listen up. And then you're like, how the hell did you go from one episode being that to being this? That doesn't make sense.
Right. Yeah, and that's like that's one of the things that I'm really coming to enjoy about Discovery is the character growth, because I think every character now, for the most part, we're seeing more direct growth out of, like Giorgio. She's like, we saw her softening up at the end when Linus handed her the popcorn. It was like, okay, she's kind of getting into this community thing a little bit. Burnham, like, she is completely different now than what she was even in that first episode of this season. She's had a major change in her character, and you can see exactly why and how that came about. It wasn't like here, from the first episode to the third episode when they reconnected, it was a massive change, but now you know why that happened. So it didn't just come out of nowhere. It was built into the show. Detmer, we're seeing character growth with her. Tilly, we're seeing growth with her. Stamets, Culber, like Culber too. Like, he's a completely different guy now than he was in season 2, but we know why and how that's happening. I really want to see that with I can't remember her name, but she's the actress that was Arium in the first season.
Yeah.
And then last season, she was moved into a different role because I guess they didn't want to kill her off at the same time they killed Arium off. So they gave the blonde girl. She was Arium in season 1.
I'll quickly look that up because it's been a while since I've seen season 1.
But like, so she just kind of showed up out of nowhere last season, and we got a couple of lines out of her here and there. But like, I like all these characters that we're seeing now. Linus, I want to know more about Linus, which I'm sure we'll get over time. But it's now that we're in episode 4 out of, I think it's 10 episodes this season, I can see the growth in the characters, and that's, I think, for me now. Well, I enjoy all the sci-fi stuff on the side too. The character growth is what's really keeping my interest on the show.
I think it's like the way that the characters have grown is mainly because of the situation that they're in. They're not like, oh, well, it's, the Enterprise is here, the Federation's all here. It's now, oh crap, there's no Federation, there's no Enterprise that we know of at the moment, but there is nothing there, and it's like it feels like when you move into a city for the first time and you don't know anyone, you have to then step yourself up and be like, right, I'm not the person that I was back here. And I really like that. Like, I thought Discovery was going to go down this sort of road where, it'd all be about Michael and Saru, and then that's it. Pardon me. And that's it. And then you won't see any character growth and be like, oh, person on comms, you do this for me. And it's like, yeah, okay. And then you don't see any of them. But each character feels, even like the crew people in the back, I feel like they'll get some sort of boosted character development. Not a lot, but at least something that will make them kind of stand out.
Yeah, because it's. I feel like we're almost in. Did you watch Lost?
The first season ish.
Okay, so on Lost, obviously they were on this island, and it was the people from the plane, and they were all kind of there together. So you couldn't. They eventually added new characters to the show with the others and Ben Linus and all those folks, but they never really focused on like background people from the plane. They there's main 7 people from the plane that always went out, but then every once in a while, once a season, you would see like one of the background characters like get a moment, and you're like, oh, I've been seeing this guy for like 3 years. Now we're actually finally getting a story. But then like in season 5, there was an episode with Nikki and Paulo. I don't remember who played Nikki, but Paulo was Rodrigo Santoro, who's done a lot of stuff since then, and he was on Westworld, or at least was on Westworld, and we were like, wait a second, we've never seen these two before like 3 episodes ago, and now they have their own episode that's dedicated just to them. Whereas with like Star Trek in the Next Generation, there was the Lower Decks episode, and I was like, okay, well these are all new characters that we've never seen before, but that's okay because the series is episodic, so there's tons of people on the ship that we've never seen. So the fact that this is focusing on these random crew members is kind of okay. But now we're in that same like Lost type of position where no one's going to be coming and going from the ship. The crew of the ship is the crew of the ship. So like I feel like we kind of need to see more of them. Like Voyager was kind of the same way. There were all these background characters that you were like, wait, I've been watching the series for 6 years, and how did I never notice this ensign before?
Yep. Always the case. Ensign Wildman, where the hell did you come from?
Yeah.
What? Neelix, get off the airlock.
Oh, the guy that was so before, and then she has a kid, so now we've got Naomi Wildman, and it's just like, who grew up really fast because I guess they didn't want to deal with a baby on the show.
Yeah, it was just like, how do we element? Right, she's part Tarkalian. Right, let's just say that they age really quickly up to a certain age, and it's like, great, let's do it. And it's just like, God damn it, Naomi! Like last episode, you were like 2 months old. Now you're like 10. The hell?
It's like Nikki from Family Matters. What one season he was 1, and the next season he was 6. Like, what?
Well, there's a soap opera in the UK called Coronation Street, and in this one house that when they wanted the kids to go upstairs, they'd be like, "Oh, go up to bed," and then literally it's like these kids will just go up to bed, and you never saw them for like 10 years or something, and then they came down and like, "Oh, I told you to get upstairs." You're like, "Yeah, it felt like 10 years ago you told me this," or they make something up, and then she's just fully grown, and it's just like, okay, time in soaps work differently.
That was always my issue. This is completely off topic, but that was always my issue with like Ryan Murphy shows, was that the timeline in them was always just like so bizarre. Like in Nip Tuck, one of the women on the show was pregnant, and while she was pregnant, someone was going to jail, and they were in jail. They were supposed to be in jail for like a 3-year sentence or something like that. Then 3 episodes later, the person is just getting out of jail, and the woman is just giving birth. I'm like, what? How much time passed? So just like that kind of continuity thing always kind of like throws me off, because I'm like, wait a second. So far, Discovery has done a good job with keeping all the continuity straight, and like I get that they're retconning certain things, and that made some people unhappy with that. But now that they're in the future, they can kind of forge their own path. So hopefully that'll won't be an issue anymore. And so far this season, it really hasn't been. I mean, they've obviously retconned some stuff in this episode with the Trill, but I think that's fine, because we didn't really know much about them.
Yeah, it's like Trill. Who gives a crap about the Trill? They're just the Trill. Dax was hot. Ezra was hot. That's it.
What races are you looking forward to seeing now?
As much as I'm not a huge fan of them, I really want to see the Ferengi. I really want to see how they've changed. Because obviously you had Rom as the Grand Nagus, so little things could happen. But I'd also love to see the Borg. That is one thing that I would be like, I want to see it, because obviously, they're not going to look at Discovery, because if they come across it and they go, oh, you're like from this era, no one cares, not unless they use the spore drive. But I would love to kind of see that. Any other race? No, I think there's like the only 2 that I would quite like to see. How about you?
For me, I kind of want to see the Breen. Kind of see what they're up to. But the Ferengi are definitely on my list, because like you were saying with Rom and Control, they were shifting from their pure capitalist merchant society to be more democratic in nature. So I would be really interested to see how that affected their society, and whether that broke down again after the burn, because like I could easily see the old Ferengi being profiteering off of this entire thing. Like I was honestly surprised we didn't see them at that Orion black market thing. because
True.
you would have expected them to be in there running it with them.
Yeah, I think maybe they're keeping it away for a little bit, because either you don't know what's happening with them, or maybe they did the same sort of thing as like the Federation, like they like boxed off their planet, or they're only trading to a few things, or maybe as soon as the burn happened, they had enough maybe dilithium to move into another sector. So they've left like the Alpha Quadrant. So maybe they went to the Gamma or the Delta Quadrant and then kind of set up there. Because I think that even though they're going to talk about the burn, I have a feeling that it's not going to resonate all the way out to the Beta or Gamma or even to the Delta Quadrant. I think that maybe the Alpha Quadrant was just kind of hit and they saw this or knew something was coming and then they took off.
Yeah, I mean that's entirely possible. Bajor, I'd love to see Bajor again.
Mm.
Find out what's happening with that and the wormhole. The Cardassians, like knowing where they are would be really interesting.
Yeah, when they're in like episode one, very, very briefly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
So,
the Founders,
ooh,
kind of like all these loose ends from Deep Space Nine. I kind of I want to know where everyone's at now.
I think it'd be kind of cool. Like, have the Dominion kind of like died out because there's no Ketchesine White. Yeah, the Founders would be a very cool planet. I'd love it if like they was like, yeah, unfortunately they were destroyed. Like, so I'm hoping like the Federation episode, they go, well, what's gone on? And they go like, oh well, after the Dominion War, after this happened, and they just go, well, what? And they go, oh, another time. Sorry, I've just polluted the timeline for you. But I feel like that would be kind of really
Yeah,
cool.
because with the Spore Drive, I also want to know what the range is on that. Like,
Mm,
would they with the Spore Drive would they be able to get out to the Delta Quadrant and go see the Kazon, who
mm.
we didn't see after Voyager returned, or out can they get to the Gamma Quadrant and actually just go to the Founder's homeworld?
Mm.
Is Odo still alive? I mean, obviously Renee Auberjonois has passed, but like it's just like some of these things where I'm like, so like that's almost why I wish Discovery had followed up after Deep Space Nine, because
Mm.
I want to know what happened in that time frame.
I
Which I
think
mean
they.
I'm sure we can get to that because like we still have Picard that's taking place 20 years after that. We don't necessarily know yet when Prodigy is going to take place. Um, so
I think. I think with Prodigy, though, we're not going to see a lot of that. I think because they've geared up for a Nickelodeon show, I think it will be like I'm not a huge fan of Lower Decks, but I have a feeling that it will be like kind of a more serious version of something like that with
yeah,
Janeway just sitting in the passenger seat. But I think that if they could, like, I think if you're going to use them, I would really like it if they turn around and said, "Oh yeah, Discovery this," and then at least link it in, so then we know exactly what's happened, even if the TV show isn't going to go that direction.
right.
I think that's a good way of doing it. But then also you have Star Trek Online as well, and that's all pretty much canon from what I remember, and that has different stories with other like the other characters going on.
Yeah. There's so much like, and that's again before we wrap out here because we're getting close to the hour mark. I'm just excited for what we have in the future of Star Trek with whether it's Discovery or Picard, Lower Decks, Prodigy, Strange New Worlds, uh, finding out what actually is going on with the Section 31 show. Again,
Hmm.
as we've mentioned numerous times over the past few weeks, it's an exciting time to be a Star Trek fan. Just like it's an exciting time to be a Power Rangers fan too, with everything that's changing with that.
Hmm.
So, I feel like both properties are kind of in this. Like I think Star Trek's a little bit ahead of where Power Rangers was. Like Power Rangers is getting to where Star Trek was when Discovery started,
Yeah.
and now we're gonna kind of see that growth there. So I'm really interested to see where both properties go and how they maybe align a little bit with each other a little bit more. Because I was just talking on the retro show that I plan on watching Dino Fury when that starts, just because
Hmm.
I want to see the transition from from the Saban and Disney era type stuff to this new Hasbro era, and then the transition from that into what we're going to be getting from Brian Hill and Jonathan Entwistle.
Hmm. So I'm kind of excited like that because I have a feeling that we're going to get two very mixed emotions. One is going to be, hell's yeah, this is amazing. Or two, this is not my Power Rangers. I'm going to go back and watch Mighty Morphing.
Right.
And then that's going to be it. And I feel like if Power Rangers can go down the route of discovery, at least, I think either in quality or within production and value or even storytelling, that I feel like we'll instantly know, yes, it's going to be in good hands, or, oh God, no.
Yeah. No, I agree. And hopefully over the next 12 months or so, we'll start seeing a lot of that more come to light. But for now, I think that's going to do it for us for ratings. Let's pull those up here. What is your rating for episode 4 of season 3 of Discovery?
I'm going to give it a 4 and a Wesley Crusher.
I don't have a Wesley Crusher to add, but I do have a 4, and those also appear to be working this week, so that is also a positive. I am also going to give it a 4. I felt overall this was a solid episode that did more to set up the rest of the season. And now that we know that they're going to see the Federation next week's episode, I'm really excited to see what happens after that. I wasn't a huge fan of the storyline on Trill, which I'm now putting more as the B plot and the A plot as the storyline of the ship, since that was the one that I was actually really interested and attached to. Is what really, because if we were just dealing with the storyline on Trill, I probably would have given it like a 2.5 or a 3. But the stuff on the ship really kind of bumped it up for me. So I am also going with a 4. Donnie, what did you think of this episode? I see that you're still in the chat there. So while I'm waiting for you for that, I'll pop over to the fandom article, which looks like it's been updated with some continuity information. We talked about this already. This episode features the first appearance of the Trill homeworld and the caves of Makala since Equilibrium, which was back in Deep Space Nine. In this episode, the sphere data retrieved during an obol for Sharon. No, just the sphere data begins to incorporate itself into Discovery's computer and begins to show the beginning of a personality that eventually becomes a character known as Zora, which is what the ship's AI was known in the short Trek episode Calypso. During this emergence, this goes to your comment about the voices being different. It was 2 different people doing the voices, both Annabelle Wallace and Julian Grossman, who did the voice of Zora and the ship's computer the rest of the time. In the 822 years since the host, which was the TNG episode that I was talking about, no symbiont has been successfully joined with a non-Trill, although it's not made explicit if this is due to lack of effort. So we don't know that they just haven't tried, or whether they have tried and it's just not been done successfully. And then the last note here for continuity is that Georgiou's true identity now seems to be open knowledge among the true crew, as Culber has no hesitation about referring to her as Emperor during his haiku.
Okay.
But I don't know if that's accurate or not, because I think all of the bridge crew knew who she was, but I don't know if the rest of the crew on the ship did, because Saru gave the rest of the crew the night off, so none of them were there, but it was just all the main people who had been around for that part, or had high enough security clearance, I guess, that maybe knew. So I don't know that that's accurate or not, but
yeah,
they're 900 years in the future, so I don't know that really matters at this point either. And Donnie Pearson says that he loved it. He's giving it a 10 out of 10. Delta Shields, and even the score of the music he really enjoyed.
Here's a question for you. So as we're wrapping up, when it comes to the Federation episode, how funny would it be if it's just like, okay, yeah, you have to get past one person that will say we trust you or not. They turn over to the door and it opens, and it's just Pike in that chair thing, and he just wheels out, and he's like, beep, 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 beep. He's like, we believe you. You are now part of the Federation again.
I'd be good with that, or this would never happen. But if they got Avery Brooks back as Cisco.
Oh, I would love that. I'd be like,
Like somehow the burn just caused him to pop out of the wormhole with the wormhole aliens and be like, I need to fix this shit.
I've seen it all the way through the temple, and the Bajorans and the prophets do not like this stuff going on. I'm out. I'm coming in. Here's my baseball.
I feel like other than Dax, which now we know isn't here probably, he's probably and Q. Cisco is one of the very few characters that could legitimately pop up, and we wouldn't have to be like, wait, how is he back?
Exactly.
Because he was in the temple, so we know that time doesn't work the same way there. So he could come in. I guess we don't know how long Guinan's race lives. We know that she's going to be showing up in Picard, so I guess she could theoretically show up too, maybe. But,
yeah.
But I don't know, because she was 800 years old already, I think, on Earth when she was there in like the 1800s or 1900s or whenever that was.
Yeah, I think her race like lives on for such a long time. I'd laugh if it was Worf. Just comes out torpedoes.
Somehow, like in one of the many temporal anomalies that he got put into, the real Worf actually got shot 900 years into the future. I guess Daniels could show up too. Maybe. I don't know. But yeah. That's going to do it for us for this week on the Riker Maneuver current Star Trek edition. What kind of stuff do you have to plug? What do you have going on throughout the week?
I have lots of planning and sorting and getting things ready. It's a busy time. How about you? What have you got plugged?
Next weekend at the Comic Bug in Manhattan Beach, Jason Font is going to be there doing a signing for the new Power Rangers comic, Sins of the Future. So anyone who's in the Manhattan Beach area is welcome to come down for that. We will be doing it safely. Wear your mask. Physically distance from people that you don't live with or make out with on a regular basis. Tomorrow night on the Illuminerdi, we've got the Illuminerdi Wrestling Order where Jay and Pumps and Nate will be talking about whatever was going on this week in wrestling. And just check out the website. We've always got new news dropping there, and there's always something to see. I just upgraded our server on the back end, so it'll be running a little bit faster for you guys too. But until then, you can keep up with me on Twitter at Vogon Poetry Slam. You can see it right there on the screen. Heirloom, I know you've got two different ones. I've only got one of them up here. So you're mainstream live on Twitter and on
Heirloom,
Instagram.
Everywhere else, Heirloom. God damn that one person that took my Twitter handle. And they don't use it. It's so frustrating.
That's the worst. That is the worst. But yeah, so that'll do it for us for this week, and we will see you next time.
Yeah. See you later.
Hit this offline button.